In terms of the speakers, I just want to quickly introduce the speakers to you. Our first speaker this evening is Bobby Anak William. He's an Iban from Banting and Saratok. He's a former civil servant and he holds an MBA from UiTM. And he's the incumbent president of PBDS. Our second speaker is Dr. John Brian Anthony. He's a DAP Central Executive Committee member. He's also a DAP Sarawak Committee member. And he's secretary to an NGO. And he's the former Bintulu Port Authority chairman when Pakatan Harapan was running the federal government from 2018 to 2020. Our third speaker is Joshua Anak Jabeng, who's the secretary of Parti Keadilan Sarawak. He's formerly a secretary general of SDNU, and he's the Ketua Cabang for PKR in Selangau, and he's also NCR land activist. He currently works as group agency director for an insurance company. Our fourth speaker is William Line. He's the Bidayu Iban. He's the ex-deputy Parti Amanah Sarawak, and he's also the ex-information chief for PBDS Baru. He's currently the secretary of the NGO called the Bac In Heritage Association of Sarawak, the organizer of this forum, and he's also the coordinator for Civil Society Organization for Reform of Sarawak. I'm also very pleased to introduce a special guest of mine, my very good friend, Datuk Joseph Entulu. Datuk Joseph, as many of you know, used to be ex-minister in the Prime Minister's Department. He was also ex-deputy minister for rural development, and he was MP for Selangau constituency until the previous election in 2018. He was also the ex-deputy president of Parti Rakyat Sarawak, and he's currently attached to Parti Sarawak Bersatu. So I'd like to go around the room first and ask the speakers to basically answer a very simple question. And the core question that we want to answer in this forum is very simple. What does Dayakism mean to you personally? Is it a political philosophy, or is it something to do with day-to-day issues faced by the Dayak community? Is the philosophy of Dayakism relevant to today, 2021, the 21st century? And what role will Dayakism play in the upcoming Sarawak election? And of course, I suppose the most important thing that we're trying to learn in this webinar is that are the younger Dayaks embracing Dayakism? So maybe we'll start off with my special guest, Datuk Joseph. Can you perhaps talk about this? Can you unmute yourself, Datuk?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Datuk.
Okay. Thank you very much for thank you very much, Professor, for inviting me to participate in this VC. And I wish to say hello to many of my friends who are going to be speakers here tonight. Dayakism has always been there all this while. It is a question of who wants to take the lead, and in a way, who wants to really, shall I say, who wants to excite the sentiments of the Dayak. The reason why it has always existed is because of the very unfair and very obvious discrimination against the Dayak. Dayak people are very liberal, very accommodating. If there had been fairness all this while, there probably would not be much things that we call Dayakism. So Dayakism is born out of discrimination by some parties who rule Sarawak for more than 50 years already. And the Dayak have suffered a lot through that discrimination in almost all aspects of our life. In fact, when I was the deputy and later on a minister in the Prime Minister's Department, I very vocally told the Prime Minister once in our meeting of PRS, selected Supreme Council members to visit him, that we Dayak have been discriminated in civil service intake, in scholarship, in promotion, in intake to universities, in business. In short, I told the ex-Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Najib at the time, that discrimination against the Dayak are total. And therefore, this has become one of the sources of Dayakism in Sarawak. Of course, some of the Dayakism is a carryover from the fact that the first two chief ministers were from the Dayak community. And it seemed that at the time we were recognized as the rightful or the prodigal son of Sarawak, and therefore we should helm the state government. And because of that, and with the fact that we have been discriminated, Dayakism was born. Now, are we still on just one question or the rest of the questions? Professor? Are we?
Oh, yeah, all the
am I
questions
to
are
answer
linked
all the
together.
four
Yes,
questions?
please. Yes, because all the questions are linked together. This is your opening statement.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Now, is it still relevant? Yeah. Is it still relevant? Is Dayakism still relevant? As long as we suffer this discrimination, it will remain relevant. But if fairness pervades later on, it will gradually diminish by itself. So what FAN, what Dayakism at the moment is very much discrimination against the Dayak communities. What is the third question? I forgot already. What was the third question?
The third question is that are the young people embracing
what was the third question?
The Dayak ideology? Are the young people embracing that?
I thought there is a fourth question.
Yeah. Are the younger Dayak embracing Dayakism? Can you see?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you see? I put it up on the screen. Can you see?
Okay.
Can you see it?
No, that's the fourth one. I'm talking.
Yeah. What will role be playing?
What role will Dayakism
in the coming Sarawak election?
Yes. PRN.
Yes.
Well, Dayakism has always been there for as long as I see it. For as long as this discrimination exists, Dayakism will be there. And I see it. I'm answering that now.
Yeah.
Because of the continuous existence of Dayakism, which results from discrimination against the Dayak, it will remain relevant. In fact, within the Dayak community, it is one of the things that we have to highlight. We have to highlight discrimination, and that results in using Dayakism. The main issue for this coming PRN will be this discrimination. Now, discrimination in many aspects, including what we talk about with regards to NCR land, civil service intake, and all that which I have said earlier. And on top of that, among the educated Dayak, we also have to talk about the MA 63, PDA 74, and so on. Are the younger Dayak embracing Dayakism? As long as the topic is relevant to them, they will continue to embrace Dayakism. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk. So our second speaker, Bobby from PBDS. Can you unmute yourself? Bobby?
Oh, you hold on. Okay, James.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen, Datuk and other speaker. Okay. What is Dayakism to me? Dayakism, this is based on what my understanding on Dayakism. Yeah? Dayakism was born when a group of Dayak intellectuals they are fighting Datuk James Swak in 1983. So the words of Dayakism was coined by the late Datuk Daniel Tajim when he is the co-founder of PBDS with Tan Sri Leo in 1983. I think Dr. Joseph Entulu know about the history of formation of PBDS. It is, to me, it is a political war cry for the Dayak community. The only thing that can help Dayak to be united, Dayak to be in one voice, to fight discrimination, as what Dr. Joseph Entulu mentioned just now. So, what is it ideology? What is it ideology to me? I believe it really attracts the Dayak to actively in politics. Politics that fight for the right of the Dayak. Only Dayak. That is why only Dayak politician can use this slogan, the Dayakism. Doesn't matter from which political party they are. Okay, is it relevant in 1921 century? Okay, my answer is yes. It is relevant forever and ever, as long that Dayak exists. As long that Dayak, they are still having a problem with discriminations, everything, and so on. Okay? For the coming election, this is very interesting. I'm not very sure. Just for your information, yeah, James.
Yes.
We PBDS just come back to life in August 2020, okay, after we deregistered again. So if this is what I believe, if nurtured properly, why not? Okay, PBDS can be the best political party for the Dayak. So how well is the spirit of Dayakism be accepted for this coming election? Okay, so far, I did not see that Dayak politician ever talks about the Dayakism within their political party, not until PBDS back to life. I'm sorry if I overlooks on this matter, because this is a real example to me. Okay, PKR, for instance. Why that mostly Dayak supported PKR the previous elections? Because the key figure which they look at that time in PKR is Baru Bian, Willy Mongin, and Ali Biju. But the hero that Dayak look upon during that time is none other than Baru Bian, because he is they call him as a land NCR lawyer. So after Baru Bian left, okay, Dayak, they are moving into another political party. They are supporting PSB, which Datuk Joseph Entulu is the member of the PSB. So maybe Joshua can help me to elaborate more later why that Dayak, happen, what is happening in PKR. Okay, so about the younger generation, I believe if PBDS, okay, if more intellectual Dayak coming in PBDS, okay, the Dayakism can be can give a great challenge in this PRN 12. But for PBDS itself, we are, to be honest, we are not really ready for this coming election, because we believe there are more election coming in. PRN 12, PRN 13, PRN 13, PRN 14 and 15. As long as we are in Malaysia.
Okay, thank you very much.
That is our vision.
Yes,
So
thank you very much.
now, the most important part. Okay, all right.
Thank you. John, the next speaker is John. John, can you come in? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everybody. The first question is Dayakism. What is Dayakism? It is simply put, I would say that Dayakism is to speak on behalf of the Dayak. And that was exactly, if I still want to carry on with what Bobby said, that Dayakism is a word that was coined by the late Datuk Sri Daniel Tajim when he started to launch, founded PBDS with Leo Mogi. And then his reasoning is that if UMNO speaks for the Malay, MCA speaks for the Chinese, MIC for the Indian, let PBDS speak for the Dayak. That was what he said. Now, there is a question about what is Dayakism, what does Dayakism represent? Dayakism actually, it is a racially linked slogan, actually, to attract the support from the Dayak. And I think that it remains a slogan, but slowly our understanding has evolved into an ideology. It has never been an ideology. It was mostly like we are representing the Dayak. But now as it is slowly evolving into ideology, what does it stand for? Yeah. Now, in the first place, I like to have this question that I ask to myself: what drives Dayakism in the first place? Where does it start? So the starting of Dayakism, or the sustenance of Dayakism, has been, as Datuk Joseph Entulu said, was they felt, they view themselves, their self-image as being discriminated, both by the state government and by the federal government. And it is very clear that there are a lot of issues that sustain or that grow Dayakism. First is the word lain, that particular category of race. That is one of a strong driver of Dayakism, that where it does not come out as Dayak. And then the second part of Dayakism, or fuel Dayakism, is this unwritten promise, where this is not a lie. This is a real statement, whereby if the chief minister is an Iban that time, Stephen Kalong Ningkan, and later on Tawisli, then the governor must be a Muslim, Malay, or whatever. And that is still in the mind of the Dayak. That promise is still in the mind of the Dayak. And when the late Adnan passed away, and Jabu should come up, despite a lot of Dayak not liking Jabu, they would say that if Jabu become the chief minister, we will take it, at least we will take it. And it doesn't happen. And then Abang Jo take it. And now when Ugah and James Masing is there, they said, is there any hope for these two deputy chiefs to be the chief minister of Sarawak? Now, why do they ask that question? Because they felt that the Dayak in Sarawak has always had three main problems. First is the Dayak DNA is land. They came, they opened up land, and then they become guardians of that land. They look after all the land in the Ulu area to protect it from intrusions and from being destroyed. But all of this is happening, so the Dayak become insecure. So they feel that they are threatened. So that is the spirit of
can you please mute yourself?
yeah. So
Go ahead.
so then there is this feeling of we have a raw deal. You cannot take away our land. And the third area is opportunities. We find that we are always discriminated either in job areas, in the civil service, or in the businesses. So that is the area, that is the thing that drives Dayakism. Now, the other thing is this relevant, Dayakism? I think it becomes more and more relevant now because the factors are getting more defined. The issues of Dayak become more specific and more defined, and it is carried by various people. It is carried by GPS, who runs their own narrative about how they help the Dayak. It is also...
Excuse me. Can the person please mute yourself? Can you please mute yourself, please? Yep. Sorry, John.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So, so the point is this: it become more relevant, and more people are starting to pick up Dayak issues for two reasons. The first reason is that Dayak is the majority in Sarawak, and without the Dayak support, you cannot form the government. So while the government is trying to hold on to the Dayak support, the opposition is trying to get Dayak support in order to change the political scenario, because they are the biggest. No matter what it is, Dayak will remain, issues will remain big, it will remain important in Sarawak. Now, how relevant it is? I think that Dayakism is in response to a few things. I just mentioned two here. Number one, Dayak are very, from the late Tun juga up to today, Dayak view Islamization as a big no-no for them. They don't want religious thing to come into their way of life. They can have free choice, but they don't like when people interfere with their belief system and their cultural system. That is one part of the response. And Dayakism tends to harden itself, or tends to get stronger with such a background. And then the second part about Dayakism is about comparison between the development with other races, the facilities that other people have, and why don't I have it? They are starting to ask the question about their rights. And they even question, why am I a Bumi Putra and I am not treated a Bumi Putra? You see, they do this comparison. And are they making use of me, of my numbers, in order to substantiate the policies of Bumi Putra that is supposed to help me, but it doesn't? So in this way, as you see, the young Dayak starts to listen to this narrative. Well, I am one of those people who writes this narrative. And the young Dayak find that to be more and more relevant, but it needs to be expanded. Now, why is it relevant? There are one question or a few questions before we go into the relevancy. The question is, why is it wrong for me to speak on behalf of the Dayak, to spell out my needs? If I am in need, can I bring it up? What is wrong for me to say that? That is one basic fundamental question that they ask. Because there is a tendency for the GPS government or the government previously You people don't talk. We know what we can do for you. You just shut up, we will give you. And that now doesn't count. They will ask, what is it in for me?
Okay, John, you got
what
2
do
more
I get?
minutes, sir. Sorry, John, you got
Okay.
2 more minutes.
Yeah. Now the next one is this. Every time they start to speak a little bit on behalf of the Dayak, they are labeled as opposing the government. So last but not least that I see here is what does Dayakism mean to these young people? I have a lot of interaction with them. This is basically what it is. They wanted unity, and this is a big subject, and they couldn't put themselves into what unity is. But what they understand, or what they have not understood well, is that Dayak need to learn to take responsibility to solve their own problem. They cannot wait for others to solve problem for them. Second thing, Dayak need to know how to be sensitive to their core values. What is their core values? Instead of being apathy about the issues that they have. And the third one is that Dayak lacks a lot of self-confidence in terms of they want instant gratification. Thereby you can see buying a vote is possible because of instant gratification, instant promise of projects, manner rural project coming in. This they have to learn in order to look for the long term. Now, as this narrative go forward later on, it will be, I think that the future for Dayak in Sarawak will get bigger than what it is today. I think the last and not least is about Dayak changing their environment. Dayak, in terms of Dayakism, must learn to fit into the world instead of waiting for the world to fit into them.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. So I think it's time to speak to Joshua. Joshua has recently recently moved back to PKR Sarawak after a sort of a period in the wilderness. So Joshua, perhaps you are probably in a very good position to tell us what does Dayakism mean to you, and specifically what does Dayakism mean to PKR Sarawak. Joshua?
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I have heard all those speakers before me were speaking in English. I believe there are others out there who are listening to us who probably would rather listen to tune in another language. So I'll be using Bahasa Melayu. Ini adalah untuk kepentingan peserta-peserta kita pada malam ini yang mungkin lebih meminati atau memahami bahasa Melayu. Soalan yang pertama, what does Dayakism ideology mean to you? Soalan ini ditanyakan bagi saya, kepada saya, jadi saya akan jawab dengan cara saya sendiri daripada pemahaman saya sendiri. Mungkin berbeza daripada yang lain, tetapi saya mohon supaya kita dapat terima tinjauan dari sudut-sudut yang mungkin tak sama tetapi mempunyai tujuan yang serupa. Sejarah dan asal-usul kaum Dayak telah diwarnai dengan pelbagai kebudayaan. Maka amatlah mustahil bagi kita untuk mendapat pengertian yang lengkap dan mutlak walaupun istilah Dayak ini diperbahas panjang masa. Untuk mendefinisikan istilah Dayakism adalah perkara yang akademik dan itu adalah di luar kepakaran saya. Maka saya lebih suka menyentuh apa yang saya rasa adalah perkara yang lebih utama. Perkara-perkara yang paling mendesak dalam konteks politik kaum Dayak di Sarawak sekarang adalah mengapa kaum Dayak semakin berasa tambah tertekan di negeri sendiri. Satu, mereka tertanya-tanya mengapa hak tanah adat mereka semakin lesap. Satu hak yang mereka rasa adalah hak asasi. Kedua, mengapakah kemiskinan di kalangan kaum Dayak terutama luar bandar justru meningkat walaupun pelbagai usaha dan janji melalui MRP telah diberikan kepada kaum Dayak luar bandar. Ketiga, mengapa anak-anak mereka,
anak-anak kaum Dayak tidak mendapat kemasukan ke dalam IPTA dan institusi-institusi kerajaan walaupun mereka mendapat keputusan yang cemerlang di dalam SPM atau SDPM. Kemudian, mengapakah mereka tidak diberi peluang yang sama dalam jabatan-jabatan kerajaan apabila mereka mempunyai kelayakan untuk mengikuti khidmat dalam jabatan kerajaan? Begitu juga apabila sudah di dalam kenaikan pangkat pun mereka nampak disisihkan. Dan inilah yang menjadi masalah yang menyebabkan kaum Dayak sangat tidak berpuas hati. Tanggungjawab yang lebih utama untuk digalas para pemimpin kaum Dayak sekarang ialah untuk merancang, mengenal pasti cara dan melaksanakan kaedah penyelesaian yang muktamad bagi kaum Dayak. Setidak-tidaknya mereka harus menampakkan usaha untuk mengurangkan keluhan dan keresahan kaum Dayak yang hidup di atas tanah warisan nenek moyang di bumi Kenyalang dan di Malaysia amnya. Bagi saya, inilah satu komitmen, satu keutamaan yang menjadi tumpuan saya di dalam Parti Keadilan dan Pakatan Harapan Sarawak. Soalan yang kedua, is Dayakism still relevant in the 21st century and the upcoming PRN? Adakah Dayakism masih relevan dalam abad ke-21 ini, terutama sekali berkaitan dengan pilihan raya negeri yang akan datang? Jawapan saya tetap. Dayakism tetap relevan. Kenapa? 35 kerusi DUN negeri Sarawak adalah satu bilangan yang cukup kuat untuk menubuhkan kerajaan baharu negeri Sarawak, untuk menukar BNGPS. Pengundi-pengundi Dayak boleh menjadi kingmakers dalam negeri ini kalau mereka cukup memahami kuasa yang ada pada undi mereka. Sebenarnya orang-orang Dayak tidak patut menyalahkan sesiapa atas kebobrokan yang telah mereka hadapi sekarang ini. Itu bukan salah Melayu atau Cina atau sesiapa, melainkan kaum Dayak itu sendiri. Saya minta maaf kalau ini ada keras. Tetapi saya percaya ini adalah satu kenyataan. Kerajaan BNGPS yang mereka benci dan tuduh sebagai tidak adil adalah kerajaan-kerajaan wakil rakyat yang mereka telah pilih sendiri, yang mereka lantik dari masa ke semasa, dari pilihan raya ke pilihan raya dengan undi kaum Dayak sendiri. Jadi kalau mereka mengundi, itu pilihan mereka. Bagaimana nak salahkan kerajaan yang mereka dirikan dengan undi mereka? Pengundi-pengundi Dayak, terutama di luar bandar, yang telah bertanggungjawab untuk mengekalkan BNGPS selama 50 tahun ini di Sarawak. Itulah sebabnya mereka mendapat gelaran Fixed Deposit Barisan Nasional. Atas hakikat tersebut, untuk membentuk kerajaan baru, sekiranya kita sudah jemu dan puas ditekan oleh BNGPS, yaitu pastikan calon-calon Dayak menang dalam kesemua 35 kerusi majoriti Dayak di Sarawak. Lepas itu, carilah 7 lagi kerusi-kerusi tambahan, semestinya lah dari kerusi Melayu atau Cina, untuk mencukupkan 42 kerusi bagi membentuk kerajaan simple majority yang mungkin didominasi oleh kaum Dayak. Maknanya tak bolehlah kita rasis sangat kalau Dayakism itu harus menjadi keutamaan untuk membentuk kerajaan, tetapi kita rasis, kita benci Melayu, kita benci Cina, selama-lamanya kita tak akan cukup jumlah kerusi untuk kerajaan. At best, the Dayaks will remain opposition forever. Kaum-kaum manapun mesti inklusif. Cina dan Melayu pun tak boleh memerintah kerajaan Sarawak tanpa Dayak. Kerajaan yang stabil adalah kerajaan gabungan semua kaum. Dalam masyarakat majmuk adalah satu kemustahilan untuk mendirikan kerajaan yang berasaskan satu kaum saja. BN telah kukuh dengan selesa selama 60 tahun. Bila ada bekerjasama dengan MCA, MIC dan parti-parti lain dari Sarawak. Inilah asas prinsip Pakatan Harapan. Inilah satu-satunya harapan dan masa depan Malaysia yang aman dan makmur. Sarawak di bawah kerajaan Pakatan Harapan akan membela hak dan kepentingan semua kaum, tak kira bangsa ataupun agama. Sarawak for Sarawakians. Dan sebatian pelbagai kebudayaan yang hidup bersama dalam semangat toleransi yang telah wujud jauh sebelum adanya MA 63. Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, Unity in Diversity adalah asas keharmonian 270 juta penduduk Indonesia. Malaysia have been put to shame. Atas dasar inilah berdirinya Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, Presiden Keadilan.
Sorry, Joshua, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes.
Yep. Pengerusi Pakatan Harapan dan bakal Perdana Menteri kita. Apabila beliau mengatakan anak Melayu anak saya, anak Cina anak saya, anak India anak saya, anak Dayak anak saya, anak Kedazan anak saya. Kena pada dasar ini berdirilah Parti Keadilan Pakatan Harapan Negeri Sarawak yang berbilang bangsa. Now, how do we translate Dayakism into wider Dayak community? Izinkan saya ulangi bahawa pengertian istilah Dayakism adalah isu akademik semata-mata. Adapun fahaman atau maksud bukanlah satu keutamaan dalam keadaan semasa. Sejarah telah membuktikan bahawa manusia sentiasa berhijrah dari semasa ke semasa untuk mencari hidup, mencari rezeki dan sebagainya. Dalam penghijrahan tersebut, ada yang berkahwin dan menjadi sebagai orang tempatan. Begitu juga di Sarawak. Kaum Cina, Melayu, Iban, Bidayu, semua kawin-mawin. Bagaimana kita nak rasis di dalam keluarga apabila kita mempunyai campuran kaum bangsa di dalam keluarga. Jadi rasisme bagi saya adalah suatu trap. Racism is a trap. For the Dayaks, I'm sorry, it is a trap. By dividing the Dayaks, the Barisan Nasional have been in power all this while. If Barisan Nasional had been sincere, Dayaks would have been united. Maybe Rumah Dayak will be completed today. The fact is they do not want us Dayak to unite. Therefore, moving forward, if you want to move, bring the Dayak forward, we have to work as Bangsa Sarawak, Bangsa Malaysia. To Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. That is the future of Sarawak and Malaysia. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you for your contribution. Our last speaker is actually from the youth group, the one that everyone is talking about, and that is my friend William. William, would you like to give us your thoughts on the issue of Dayakism? William, you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry, didn't notice. Yeah, first of all, thank you to all the speakers and Professor Jan himself. Then thank you to all participants tonight. So my view, this is my personal view, but not as whole as for young Dayak Sarawakian opinion. First of all, what is Dayakism for us? I think Dayakism is just like what the previous speaker said, is more political motive, because from the past until now, Dayak facing a lot of discrimination. That's why this outcry is a philosophy that Dayak has been discriminated. So for me, it's just an outcry so that the Dayak will be highlighted by these people in power. That's my view on the general philosophy about the Dayakism. And for me, Dayak is not only consists of only Iban and Bidayo, but it covers all the native people of Sarawak, including Penan, Orang Ulu, Kedayan, etc., etc. It's like the aborigine of Sarawakian, something like that. For me, in my personal opinion. So number two, what's the question number two? I forgot.
The question is Dayakism still relevant to today's youth? And
okay,
go ahead.
Okay, the number two, Dayakism is still relevant because of this discrimination against the Dayak people. So it's still relevant until but every time, every generation, they have own problem, but once Dayak feel that they have freedom to move forward, to have equal treatment, then I think the Dayakism philosophy is just a history that we can learn. And then number three, I still see and saw that Dayakism still play a role in the upcoming state election, whereas when we all go to the old places in Sarawak, especially in the interior, people still living like 30 years ago, like they're still living in the Rumah Panjang with no basic supply of water, electricity, even access of the road. That's why they feel that it's still relevant for us as the Dayak, because we have so much resources, but people on ground, I mean the voters themselves, they feel that this is not right, something must be done. And then this role is important for this upcoming state election, but to move forward, we need to solve this issue. I mean, the Dayak need to sit together. Even though, like Joshua said, this is racism. For me, it's not racism, because we want to talk about the Dayak issue as general. Of course, we prioritize other Sarawakian, but we ourselves need to fix our broken system in the Dayak political community or party. And the last question, that are the younger Dayak embracing Dayakism? For me, yes, I'm embracing the Dayakism to uphold or to go back to our root, that we are the orang asli of Sarawak. We need to go back to the root, and then we fix for the future. I think that's it from me.
Okay, thank you very much, William. Obviously the first follow-up question is the conundrum that was addressed by all the other speakers. If Dayakism is about the marginalization of that community, you can make a very strong argument that the Dayak has always been part of all the ruling coalitions in Sarawak at both the state level and the federal level. What has been the failure of the Dayak leadership that they're not able to bring this up to resolve the issue of marginalization? And I think Datuk Joseph has alluded to us. Datuk, you mentioned earlier that you actually spoke to the Prime Minister about this issue. So I'm just curious, how did the Prime Minister answer you when you mentioned that the Dayaks were marginalized in Sarawak? You have to unmute now.
Thank you once again. Yeah, I have. When he replied to my comment, he told me that he has not assigned the portfolios for me, which was true at the time. So when he assigned the portfolio, he gave me to be in charge of the Public Service Commission. He asked me to be in charge of the Education Commission. Of course, after that is Mampu, and I forgot one more portfolio. But what was very important for me was the education and the Public Service Commission portfolios. So when I first met the members of both commissions, I stressed to them the discrimination and the unfairness which have plagued the Dayak community in Sarawak. And I told them the target we should set. I am not a man of publicity. One reason for that is both issues, the placement of people in the civil service and handling of the teaching post, for example, in the award of scholarship are sensitive. It is just like a swing. If one goes up, the other side in a way goes down. Meaning in terms of number, it is almost like a zero-sum game. So what I did was, the total Dayak population in Malaysia is about anything between 3.8% to 4%. So that was a target which I set for the commission to achieve. And we achieved that. But some people did not understand why are there still so many inequalities in the civil service intake in Sarawak. That is because the State Civil Service Commission in Sarawak is handled by Sarawak, not by the federal government. Only federal posts are handled by the Federal Public Service Commission, not the state vacancies. And most of the vacancies are actually handled by the state. They are state vacancies. And that is where I had no role to play there. In terms of the education portfolio, we managed later on to set the target of achieving by, I forgot what year was it, that the proportion of Sarawakian serving in the teaching post must be at least, some people say 90%, no, it must be at least 90%, and at most 10% from other states, which basically means Semenanjung and Sabah. We have a reason for that. According to them, in particular, we don't have enough expert teaching the Islamic curriculum. Some people misunderstand the need for this very special teaching by teachers of the Islamic curriculum. The pronunciation and so on, whatever it is, it's not my field, has to be perfect, has to be correct. And for that reason, we give the allowance for 10% to accommodate Semenanjung teachers. And then also, sometimes science teachers, we may not have enough in Sarawak. The same thing with mathematics teachers. And then, in terms of scholarship, at the Prime Minister's level, which is the highest technical level committee that we handle, and some people, or many people from Sarawak, of people with very high posts from Sarawak, they attend this technical committee meeting. We were able to get quotas for overseas scholarships, for local scholarship, for the Dayak, and as well as for even the Muslims. And that means for Sarawakians. The federal government even took the trouble because of our requests to lower down the requirement to get certain level of scholarship for Sarawakian and Sabahan. And in fact, one of the things I requested and it was approved was, okay, if in any particular year we have shortage of qualified people, can that quota be carried forward to the next year? So if the quota was 10, for example, this year, we fill 8 next year. If we have excess of talented people, then the two scholarships which were not taken up will be carried forward to the next year. If the quota for next year is 10, it will become 12, 10 plus 2. So that also was approved. So within the limit of what I could do, within the portfolio, we tried our best.
Okay,
the
Datuk.
next thing I wanted to do was to look at the different levels of promotion.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, Datuk. It's good that you gave us a summary of what you attempted to do. But then there's a contradiction in what you say. You mentioned that a lot of the roadblocks was actually at the state level. But it is quite obvious that your former party that put you at the federal level, the party president is a senior member of the state administration. So why didn't that party push for Dayak interest in the state administration?
Well, that is for them to handle at the state level. I did remember during our General Assembly in Bintulu, the President James Jimot Masing did whisper to the late Chief Minister Tengku Datuk Petinggi Adenan to please have a look at the civil service composition in Sarawak. And there was a positive response from Datuk Sri Adenan, but you know, he didn't have the time to make any correction, I guess. But I hope the present government, even though I'm from the opposition, it will decrease my opportunity to win the state seat if they now try to repair whatever damage they have done. I still would like them to, you know, look at the civil service composition in Sarawak. It is way, way too slanted towards a particular community. In the long run, that is not very good. No? Okay.
All right, Datuk. All right. So this is a question for the rest of the people on the panel. My final question. Given all this marginalization faced by the Dayak community, why do the Dayak community keep electing the same set of leaders who are supposedly not representing them in government and in fact helping the incumbent government to marginalize their own people? Isn't there a contradiction in terms? You all complain that Dayakism is actually raising awareness among the wider Dayak community about the process of marginalization and how the Dayaks are not getting their share of the Sarawak pie. But then I can turn around and say that you can complain all you want, but during elections, you keep voting for the same people. So how do you answer that? Maybe we'll start from Joshua.
Yeah, thank you, James. Thank you. Very interesting question. The exact question that I just shot earlier on, correct?
Yes.
Can the Dayak blame other people for the dilemma they are in now? They complain so much about the loss of land, about being marginalized, about all kind of things. And nobody complain better than the Dayaks. I'm very sorry. Because I heard them, I mix with them a lot. I'm a Dayak too. And I also complain. But then why did we keep voting the same people back into power? Reason, very simple. Those people in power have no interest to help the Dayak. They are more interested to help themselves. Am I right? I might be bad, but there's the truth. Now,
Yeah,
who are those people?
Yes, but
who
Joshua,
are those people?
Yeah,
Yes.
but Joshua, I have to intervene and say, if the Dayak voters know that the so-called current elected leaders are only interested in themselves, so why carry on voting for them in every election?
Exactly. The thing is, these people went around and keep bluffing the people, promising little things. I always think that MRP is one of the biggest trap for all the Dayaks, especially in the rural area. Listening to the name of MRP, they're overjoyed. I don't like MRP because it is minor rural project. In my mind, it should be major rural projects.
All right, William, I can see your hand coming up. William, you wanted to add something as a young Iban Bidayu? You have to unmute, William.
Yeah, sorry. First of all, when we're talking about voting the same leaders, blah, 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 need to know that this Dayak, we need to know how many of them are registered as voter. That's, we need to see how many are they registered for voter. Yeah, same like Joshua. I also heard like, yeah, we Dayak people complain a lot, but when it comes to make a change, they don't dare to even speak up. They never for them to against their leaders, because there's a famous quote that said that Anak ngelaban perintah. So this term have, what I call it, menjajah or occupy our minds, especially the older voter. So they're scared of changing the system, and then the young seems like they know, but they're not. The first basic thing, we need to know how many Dayak youth is registered as voters. That I'm pretty sure 10 of my friends, I think only 2 of us registered as voter. 8 of them, they just complain here and there, but even a simple thing like registered voter is not a priority for them.
Okay. So
yeah.
you're saying they complain, but they don't take part in the voting process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
Thank
true.
you. Bobby, as a president of PBDS, one of the original parties in the 1980s that sort of openly come up and say, I'm going to fight for Dayakism. How do you explain this contradiction? On the one hand, the Dayak spend all the time complaining, including complaining to a person like me who's a nobody. And then on the other hand, during election time, when I go down to the ground, they complain all night, have their makan, minum, everything. Next morning, something happened, and then boom, the blue team menang lagi. So how do you explain that?
Okay, actually, we Dayak are purposely made poor. Okay, knowing that Dayak, the most loyal and the most loyal people. So whatever the leaders said about anything which can fulfill their needs, they will follow. This is based on my personal observation. Okay, hopefully it will be changed. Okay, hopefully the younger generation, the Dayak will help this to change in future. Okay.
Okay.
So
thank you, Bobby. Sorry.
I agree with Joshua. He mentioned, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. John, do you have anything to add?
All right.
Yeah, you have to unmute, John.
Okay, I'm back. It's a good question. Why does the Dayak complain and they still vote for it? You see that part of my job is a cognitive person who learns a lot about how the brain works. I don't mind to be dealt with differently by the Dayak, but I believe that Dayak connectively in a situation, they depended on others to solve their problem. They are like Dr. James says, herd mentality. They follow what the Tuan Rumah says. One Tuan Rumah says, let's vote for blue, and they all say, oh, let's go for blue. If you don't vote for blue, then you become, there's a stigma for you. They couldn't decide, they can't make their own decision. Like, what is it good for them? What is their core value? What is their principle in life? What is the thing that is most priceless for them to value? And they do not, they're not able to make that decision. And the other thing that as I work through the process of helping society, Dayak find it very difficult to help themselves. If you try to look for donation for Dayak, for the cause of Dayak, very, very difficult. And then they will tell stories about how they have a drinking session and barbecued, how many crates of beer that they consume. They could spend their money on that. But for the purpose of uplifting a Dayak problem, they will not contribute. Not many will contribute. And the other thing is, of course, the fact thing is that the government also have a very strong propaganda machine. And the radio was most accessible to the rural areas. And the radio is the one that keep on telling slanted stories. So then it starts to change the function of the brain into thinking that whatever the radio said is correct. And so whatever the government says or do is correct. And they can refer it to themselves. Now, it is not a simple problem of the government keep us poor and people can buy us for our vote if we know where we stand. Now, I'm not saying other races. I'm specifically saying for the Dayak. The other part is of organization. When it comes to organization, they all point fingers to each other. Would you lead the organization? No. Would you participate in organizing? No. So nobody wants to take the lead to do anything, and depending on the other person to take the lead. Now, as the other person take the lead, everybody will blame that person as not good. Somehow, in our connective, there is a certain pathway in our thinking driven by our culture. Either it is because of the community living, or either because of the tradition that we empower ourselves with, that gives us a little bit of misjudgment in many areas.